Session with Dr. Farid Holakouee.
Good afternoon and welcome to In Session. I'm your host, Dr. Farid Holakouee, and I'll be with you for the next 2 hours here on Radio Hamra. Studio number to call in, 310-441-0555. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, so you can call in with any questions related to clinical psychology, including any emotional or psychological issues, parenting issues, and relationship issues as well. You can also follow me on Twitter or Instagram, or like my page on Facebook to get updates on the show, or suggest topics or books for the program, and the shows are uploaded at the end of each week to my SoundCloud page and podcast on iTunes. Again, our studio number, 310-441-0555. The book of the week for this week is How We Work by Leah Weiss. How We Work, Live Your Purpose, Reclaim Your Sanity, and Embrace the Daily Grind. And I'm only about 35 pages in, but it seems that she's advocating for a more mindful approach, really to do everything that we do in our life, but including in our work. And so it's interesting. I just started the book with talking about how sometimes we think about meditation as this practice or another to-do to add to our to-do list, and makes people actually more discouraged, but actually being more mindful is something that can be part of everything we do. It really should be part of everything we do. And so wanted to start the show in a way, a related theme. So it's still early in the new year, and hopefully some of your New Year's resolutions are still going or still alive. But that's actually what I wanted to talk about, is about setting goals, and also related to that, living a life we feel good about, rather than just focusing on the goals and then not letting the goals or not achieving those goals take us away from doing the things that we think are right. So for a lot of people, they say, even the way I said it to start the show right now, is like, I already broke my resolution and it's done, as if it's just finished until next year, this coming December, that they'll plan again for next year and they can try one more time. But really for me, it's realizing the spirit of what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to exercise and lose weight, well, the whole point is to be healthier. And so just because you didn't achieve some goal or you didn't meet some marker that you had set for yourself doesn't mean you should just give up on that. And so that's what I wanted to share as far as a message goes, is that rather than just thinking about the goals, which actually I think are good to set goals and have those in mind, it's about evaluating our lives and thinking, am I living the life I want to live? As far as the different roles of my life, the different aspects of taking care of myself, of living my life, of having a life with meaning and purpose. How would I evaluate my own life? How would I want my life to look? And the reason this is so important is because for a lot of us, life is happening to us more than we are choosing to live our life. By that, I mean, most people, if you ask them, they say they're so busy, they don't have time for anything, they can't do everything they want to do, or they tell themselves that once I have time, whatever that magical week or month is going to be, then I'll start doing the things to take care of myself or the things I want to do. And so this mindset and this way of approaching life is a very passive one. Life is happening to us. I have kids, I have this, and I'm just going through life, and whatever else is left over, maybe I'll take care of myself or do things that matter, but I have to do these certain things. And even in this book, early on, she talked about how we even like to say we're so busy, or people who say they're busier in some ways get more attention or can be more popular or seem to be more important. So we almost have this competition of saying, I'm just so busy. Oh yeah, I'm so busy too. And I find myself doing that too. And someone asks, how have you been? What's new? Usually, just busy with work, that kind of a response, because we feel like we have to say something about how busy we are. And so if we're not busy, we're being lazy, we don't have a good work ethic, we're not that important, we're not that wanted because we're not busy and people aren't asking us to do things. And so we almost show off about being busy, just like we can show off about not sleeping enough, not needing sleep, not having enough time for sleep. There's things that we say or that become these cultural norms or even aspirations of being busy, of not sleeping that much, that really are not about living a good life. So, any time could be a good time to do this, but sometimes with New Year's resolutions and goals, people start to look at things a different way. When we think of a clean slate or a new slate to start things, to think about your own life and think about the different areas of your life. So, to begin with, you can think of the different roles that you have. If you're a mother or father, of course, that's a very important role. If you're a husband or wife, a very important role. But also just as a citizen, as a brother or sister, as a worker in a company, or whatever it is, you have different roles in your life, and really take a look at those more closely, because if you value them, you should make sure you're doing them in the ways that you want. So, for example, as a parent, many people, of course, would probably say they want to be a better parent or put more time and effort into their parenting, but they don't have the time. And if you don't make the time for anything, you won't have the time for anything or whatever it is that you're talking about. So people say, I'll work out when I find the time. I'll do community service when I have the time. I'll do these things. And they never just magically have time show up. You have to create the time, create the space, create the routine of doing certain things. So look at yourself as a parent. Am I giving my kids the time and attention that they need? And both of those are important. The time, of course, is important. If you're not spending time with your kids, obviously you're not showing them love and making them feel loved, but also the time you're giving them, the quality of it, and the attention you're giving them is very important, because many people will sit with their kids for hours, but they're on their phone distracted most of the time, giving their kids a message that they're not very important or something else is more important than them, or anyway, not giving them a fully engaged interaction. So look at the different roles that you play. Parenting is a big one as a partner. People, especially if they have kids, it's very common for people to say things like, well, we don't have time to really focus on us or the romance or having date nights or whatever else can be about the relationship kind of goes out the window because the kids are the priority and there just isn't enough time. And I'm not saying these things are easy to work out and that the time is actually so plentiful, but we can be more mindful and have more intention in how we're allocating our time. And so, what I always tell parents is, or before a couple becomes parents to a child, is that your relationship is your first child, and you can't lose sight of that. Like a child, it needs attention, it needs love in order to survive. And so, if you deprive your relationship like you're depriving a child, it's eventually going to die or become very weak. And that's what we see happens with a lot of parents who have kids. It's only about the kids, it's not about their relationship. And sometimes, actually, you can see that they're almost choosing to make it about the kids because there's issues in the relationship or there isn't a closeness or a connection there. So it can be in some ways convenient to use the kids as an excuse that there's no more time for us because we have to focus on them, uh, where really it usually isn't the case. There still is ways to make your connection still be a priority. And also, if you really love your kids so much, we know that the stronger your relationship is, the happier your marriage is, the more love that's there. That's going to affect how you are as parents and how your children will feel in the home with you. So to think that parenting and your marriage is completely separate things is off, because they're very much related. The happier you are in your marriage, the happier kids will feel in that home. And I've seen that so much with families that I work with, where the parents think, okay, our kid has a problem, and I know our marriage has problems, but that's not our issue. We just want our kid to be okay. And you can tell the parents that, if your marriage is not okay, it's going to affect the kids, but still they think somehow these are two separate things, when really they're so related and connected. So if we don't make time for our marriage and our relationship, it's going to fall apart. It's not going to be very good. But then also the other aspects of our lives as well. So I was mentioning things like exercise or taking care of your health. You have to make that a priority. If you just try to find time, it's not going to somehow magically appear. So people think, well, I don't have the time to eat well because that takes some time, or to exercise. But if you see people that exercise regularly, it's not these people that have just tons and tons of free time. Very often it's people that just prioritize working out and make it a non-negotiable part of their day or their week and make it just happen. It's not something that they try to figure out when it's going to happen. They've already planned it into their week or month or day. So we have to be aware of what we're doing and find the things that are important, the values that are important, the way you want to live your life, and then live your life based around those core principles, core values, the things that matter. If taking care of yourself is something you make a priority, if getting enough sleep is something you know is important, then you have to schedule that and everything around it. But what most people do when it comes to something like sleep, it's the other way around. Do everything and get involved with whatever things and help out maybe with something they don't need to even do. And then sleep is whatever time is left. And so very often it's not enough. And I know in the real world, it's not that you always can set aside 8 hours every night for the rest of your life, but it is realizing that if you don't make something a priority, it's not going to happen. So this is just a reminder to take inventory of your own life, to think about what kind of life you're living. Is it the life you want to live? This is, obviously it's very cliche, but you have one life to live. It's only one you can get. And if you don't choose how your time is going to be spent, if you don't choose the way you're going to live, how you're going to act, the habits, the behaviors, the routines you're going to create, then your life will just happen to you. And you'll look back and you'll wish you did more of this, wish you did more of that, or wish you did less of some things because you didn't make those things a priority in your life. And so taking care of yourself is another one of those things where we know people can make everything else a priority but that. Going to therapy, I hear so often people say, well, when I have more time or the money, I will do it. And I understand it does cost money. Some insurances don't cover it very well. Even if it does, it can be a challenge. So I'm not saying there are no logistics to be figured out, but people sometimes are waiting for this magical time when it's going to be easy for them to go. And really, that's probably never going to be the case. Oftentimes people avoid doing something like therapy because it can be hard work. They can be scared of what's going to come up, or the process of therapy can be intimidating for some people to go in with a stranger, maybe have this fear they're going to get judged, have this fear that they're going to have to do certain things or be told to do certain things that they won't like, when therapy is a lot less scary than that. And I actually want to talk more about that during this year, about really what a therapy session looks like, because I think sometimes people have some myths and misconceptions that make them more afraid. And so we demystify it a little bit. We see that it's not such a scary process. So we want to look at what we're doing, what we're not doing, what we want in our lives. When we look back at our lives, what do we want it to look like? What do you want people to think about you? Not because their opinion matters, but because of the way you lived your life. Were you a kind person? Were you a caring person? Were you a person who did certain things in your life? For example, for me, doing some kind of community service or something for other people is something that you'll virtually never regret. But it's another thing that if you don't make time for it, you don't magically have the hours appear and the opportunities appear. You have to create them for yourself. And so when we think about this year, it can be also important to think about our whole life and the life we want to live, and realizing that if we don't make the proactive decisions and steps to make our life look a certain way, it won't look the way we want it to, and we'll feel that it's out of our control, out of our power. But we have much more control over our lives, how we spend our time, the repeated things that we do. And that's why, rather than just focusing on certain goals that might be very small, like going to the gym a certain number of times, which is very good, it's more about looking at how we're living our lives. What are the habits, the things that we repeat and do daily, weekly, that will help create who we are and how we will live our life. So rather than just thinking of 2020 and what you're going to do, think about your whole life. What areas of your life are you happy with? What areas are you not? What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of life do you want to live? And make those things a priority, and make sure you're living an intentioned life rather than a life that is just happening to you. All right, let's go to our first commercial break. Studio number 310-441-0555. You're listening to In Session with Dr. Farid Holakouee. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Studio number 310-441-0555. Let's go to a caller. Radio Hamra, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hello. Yes, thanks for calling.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for. Yeah, I calling for my grandson.
Mm-hmm.
He's 2 years and 5 months,
Mm-hmm.
and their parents is not together. They're separate almost a year ago, and he always sleep between them. When he's in the dad house, he's asleep with dad. When he's with mom, he's asleep with mom. And now because his mom or dad have a relationship, and they want to separate him, separate bedroom with them. I just worry for him because I think it's so hard right now for him because other person come into his life and they want to separate him to other room. I want to know some advice for that situation for him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I understand your concern, but one thing we have to keep in mind is that I can even give you some advice or we can talk about it, but your role as a grandparent means that you maybe won't have the power to make much of a decision in what's going on. So
Yeah, but my daughter, sorry, I'm in trouble.
that's
My
okay.
daughter asked me to call
Sure.
because she's working and she wants to call, and after that she come listen to your
Okay.
our voice.
Now, is she the
Voicemail.
one having the relationship or her father is? The husband is. Or the
Father.
ex. The okay.
Father.
Well, and that makes it even more for you to give input of what or even for her to, I mean, it's something they need to work on together. And I probably would have suggested that their child sleep in a separate room or not in their bed anyway, regardless of this relationship that is now creating the more of a pressure for the father to make this change. So already probably would be better to sleep separately. But now there's this extra pressure. But what we don't want the child to feel is this feeling of being replaced or being pushed away because of this new person in his dad's life, and
Yeah.
and it's already gonna be hard enough, I guess, from what you're saying. I don't know if she's moving in or if it's just that sometimes she wants to be there. But I think
She want
already,
to move. She
okay,
want to move. About that, they want before she moves, they want to separate him.
okay. Well, I think that could be something that they talk about also as co-parents. And I don't know, how is their relationship like? Do they communicate about how they're doing things with him? Do they plan together? Do they work well together? Or no, it's not. It doesn't have that quality to their relationship.
Sometimes he's very angry, but still they work together. One weekend he with dad, one weekend with mom, and Tuesday and Thursday afternoon, 3 o'clock he come and pick him up, and 8:30, 9 o'clock he drops off come back.
I see. Okay, is that him?
Yes, it is him.
Okay. Well, we can maybe get his input too. He probably has a lot that he's dealing with, and I wish we could actually do hear from him what he's going through and how hard it is for him. I mean, so as always is the case, parents in a divorce, their marriage is done, but their parenting is not done. So they don't have to
Exactly.
have that obviously romantic relationship or connection that is finished, but they are very much responsible to that sweet boy's voice that I'm hearing to make sure they take care of him the best way that they can. And it's not about your daughter or her ex-husband, it's about their son. And so they really have to work together. And this can be challenging, especially then when new people come into their lives. Now he's dating someone and it's becoming more serious. But it should be made very clear that this is about the son, because sometimes you'll have families where the new partner doesn't really like the ex being involved, and that's understandable that exes should not be involved in general. But when it comes to the kid, this is a very different situation. So I hope that this new partner will also be accepting of your daughter being involved when it comes to the son, and making things okay. And what is always going to be good for a child is consistency. Now already there is some lack of consistency when you're dealing with a divorced home, that he has to go to two different homes and spend some time here, some time there. But the two of them want to make the homes as similar as possible and his experience as similar as possible.
Yeah.
So
And other.
yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, other problem and for him, I because he more with me. been, with both of them because mom is work, dad is work. He's most is with me all the time, and I help him to go, back from training to him, potty training.
Mm-hmm.
He liked it, redoing it, started, but right now he's stopping. He doesn't want, and he's very angry. He don't want to change his diapers. He don't want, go bathroom. He's sometimes, this is what worries me too, and his mom too.
Okay. So when was the divorce?
Uh, 1 year ago.
Okay. Okay. So it's in a way new. I mean, to be honest, I mean, he's young, so his whole life is kind of new, 2 years and 5 months. But so one thing about potty training, there's lots of techniques, and I'm not going to get into those parts, and it seems like you guys have worked on that. But with a lot of milestones like potty training, parents can become very focused on some kind of goal, which is understandable. We want to help our children become potty trained just like we want to help them with other things. But they can start to create a time pressure like this has to happen now, or I want it to be young, or I heard so and so's kid was potty trained at 18 months. I want my kid potty trained at this month. And like they start to get competitive with this as they do with lots of other things. And so maybe that's not the case for you, but it's something I always try to tell parents because sometimes they come in and they're worried, okay, my child is this old and then they're not potty trained and they feel like somehow it reflects poorly on them as parents. Somehow it's going to reflect poorly on their child and who he or she is or how disciplined they are or their future and all these things. And of course, potty training does matter, but it can become more of a problem when we make it too big of a deal that our child is late on some timeline. So, it could be, as you're saying, and you even said there's anger there. Potty training or going to the bathroom is sometimes a way that a child can express themselves or create some kind of a power struggle because they see the effect it has, or literally it creates a mess for you, or his mom or dad. So there could be something there. And also when kids go through some things like separation and any kind of changes or trauma, there can be a regression too. So even if he was potty trained and okay for some time and now he's acting differently, as we always want to do, we want to come from a place of curiosity and trying to understand, well, why might he be going through this? So you said he gets angry about being changed, or where's the anger?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, angry. He don't want change. He, for example, he had a number 2, and we want to change him. He just scream, and he's just struggling with him. And I say it's okay. Everybody's have a poop. This is normal. Don't worry. If you will not change, your bottom get over, and then I'm gonna try to talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
Still, he's just doesn't like that. Before he wasn't, but now he's more try to aggressive for that situation.
Okay, but you're saying he was potty trained for a while, like he would go to the bathroom himself?
No, he doesn't. But before, when he had it, he want to go bathroom, he said, let's go, I have a bathroom. But now, he doesn't go bathroom, and he don't want to change the diapers either.
Okay. And is he the same with his mom or whoever it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there could be something he wants to, like I said, there's some kind of power struggle. Sometimes kids don't like being changed. They don't like the process. And you're saying it's changed. So I don't know why it's changed, but he seems to not like it. I wouldn't put a lot of pressure on him. Of course, we do have to change him because it's not good for him to, like you said, health-wise, you're trying to explain it to him that it's not going to feel good for him. But we want to also show him we understand, like he doesn't like it, or he doesn't like being changed, or something about it doesn't feel good. Even I know he's young, but maybe he could say what he doesn't like about it, or he can kind of say why he doesn't like it in some way. But we want to make him feel okay that he doesn't like it. And, this child is dealing with, divorce and separation and things that are totally out of his control. And there could be something related to control here too with this. And I know you're worried about him for that, for lots of reasons. But this is very hard. Sometimes as adults, we forget for this kid, it's so confusing. He was a baby, and then all of a sudden, he had a mom and a dad, and then now there's 2 different homes, and he's going back and forth. And we might think the schedule makes sense, and in some ways, maybe he's getting a little bit used to some of the back and forth, but it's very much out of his control and hard for him to understand. I'm here at mommy's house, and then now I'm going to daddy's house. And so his understanding of days and days of the week and things is going to be very
Yeah,
different. So he's kind of it's almost every time like a surprise for him or some kind of a bad feeling. So we have to be aware of how um, this could have a big effect. It doesn't mean I don't want to worry you that something bad is going to happen or he has to have a bad life, but we're aware that it has an impact on him as a baby dealing with this, and then now even a new person coming into his life at his father's home. It doesn't mean his father can never be with anyone, but we have to be aware of the impact it can have on a very young child.
yeah, because usually when he's with dad most of the time bring him in the grandma or his aunt. And when he come back, he more aggressive. When he come back, for example, he said, "This is mine. I want it."
Hmm.
Talk to him as a dad, and we said, "Be nice. We have to gentle. You should say, okay, that is mine. Can I have it or something?" And we try, and I very hard with that, and his mom too. And he get again normal. He go there, and then he come back again. Try to aggressive and angry and talking and bad words sometimes. And we try to said nothing when he used the bad words, because we said if we try to show him, maybe he more interested for that word.
Mm-hmm.
And but again, we talk to his dad, say, please, around him, don't use the bad words and be nice, and more, don't be aggressive. For example, he holds his phone and says, "Hello." It's bad, same as an angry person talking.
But he might be
And
an angry person, and I understand trying to show him to be kind or gentle, but we don't want to make him feel bad about his angry feelings. So maybe he comes
okay,
back and he's angry. Maybe it's about things that are going there. Maybe it's just about the transition. And even mom could ask dad, how is he when he first goes to his house? Because maybe just that transition also makes him feel some anger, some tension, some anxiety, and he's acting in that way. And so rather than just saying to him, don't do this or you shouldn't do this, we want to also try to help him understand his feelings. So say, oh, it seems like you are angry, or it seems like you are, maybe through the play, if he's talking on the phone or he's doing something, oh, you're so angry at the woman on the phone or the man on the phone, somehow playing with the feelings with him to show him you're hearing it. So we don't want to just
oh,
erase the feeling, say, oh, he's being aggressive, we have to erase his aggression. 2-year olds,
okay,
they tantrum even in the best of circumstances. They have violent, aggressive moments and outbursts and tantrums. So we have to be ready that he's going to have these and might even have more of them. And rather than just telling him he's bad for having these feelings or he shouldn't have them, we do want to teach him appropriate ways of expressing it and not. So I get that you're talking with him about what he's doing, but I also don't want you to try to make those feelings go away or erase those
I see.
feelings. So it's like having that curiosity of understanding, well, why is he angry? Maybe it's tough for him when he comes back. Maybe he's mad at mom, even because he doesn't really get it. Why wasn't mommy with me for the last 2 days? Sometimes kids have that kind of a feeling too. They don't really get it. Obviously it's a legal separation and he has to go back and forth, but a lot of times parents pick up their kids from daycare even, and the kid is mad at the parent for not being with them all day, even if they had a good time at daycare. So, he might have some of this anger. We want to try to understand it rather than just tell him it's bad or wrong.
Yeah, when his dad come take a drop of him, he hold the dad and cry and
Hmm.
say, don't go, and we very hard time to
Sure.
bring him home,
Yeah.
because he don't want that go.
Of course, we can understand that, right? It's hard for him to say bye. Bye. He loves his mom. He loves his dad.
Yeah.
If it was up to him in an ideal world, his mom and dad would get along, and he would get to be with both of them all the time. But that unfortunately isn't the reality. So we want to show him we understand he doesn't want to say bye to dad, and it's hard for him, and he's squeezing him, and these we have to also remember for not even 2.5-year old, these like days and few days in a row feels like forever. So he feels like I'm not going to see my dad forever. It's such a long time till I see him again. Or I don't really know when I see him again. He doesn't really get as I was saying before, the days of the week the way that we will. So we want to, as always, show him we understand his feeling. It's okay what he's feeling. We want to help him with his feelings too. So it's not that we just say it's okay if he wants to hit someone. We can show him that cannot be good. But we want to try to make him feel that his feelings are okay and we can understand them. and help him especially as he gets older, to make sense of his feelings, because he doesn't really get it. He just feels all these things, and he grabs his toy and throws it or squeezes it or gets aggressive. He's not going to understand, oh, I'm upset about this transition or this is difficult for me, but he's just feeling it, and we want to just make sure we don't give him a bad feeling about what he's going through.
Yeah. Do you think if it's just one person, mom or dad, raise him, is better?
Um, you mean that he only sees one of them?
Yes, just,
I
just always
No,
in the
I don't know.
mom.
I don't think so, because then he's gonna more than likely have a feeling of abandonment from the other parent. My guess is
Oh,
you're wanting things to be more consistent, because I was mentioning that before, which there's something to that. But I think taking him away from one of them, I don't see that as good, because he's gonna have that missing person there too, and have a feeling of abandonment from that. So
yeah.
that would be my thought. But going, your initial question, it's very important for mom and dad to work together. I think already was probably a good idea for him to sleep in his own bed or sleep separate. And so for your daughter, maybe she doesn't like the reason why that's kind of pushing it forward, is that this new woman is in her ex-husband's life. But
No, no, exactly. Actually, she's asked him because she's other woman, he wanted to bring the girls in the 1 month. And my daughter tells him we should start to now before she's coming.
okay,
She said, I don't want my son, feeling before because
yeah,
we put him
yeah.
in the vessel.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good
Yeah,
idea. So that's good. I'm glad your daughter's approaching it that way, and I hope they'll work together. And as always, parents remembering. Unfortunately, it's very easy to say. I know when I say it, no one would disagree that we should make the kid the priority, and parents should co-parent. But so many things come up, and the parents, the exes, can start to feel like they're enemies of each other, and sometimes will find any way to win
yeah,
against each other. And unfortunately, very often in that war, the kids are caught in the middle, and they get some of those bullets in that war, and it's very sad, but it happens all the time. So it's remembering that the priority is the child, and I'm hoping your daughter and her ex will do that and make sure he is okay, but knowing that this is going to be hard for him. So he will have some painful feelings, angry feelings, anxiety, different things will come up, but especially we want to make it easier for him, and also make sure he feels it's okay for him to feel those things.
yeah. Thank you so much
Sure, my
for your
pleasure.
advice.
My
That is
pleasure.
very helpful.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Very nice to talk to you. Thank you for calling.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Appreciate it for your time.
My pleasure. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.
All right, going into another commercial break. Studio number 310-441-0555. We'll be right back. Welcome back. So the previous caller was asking about her grandson, and her daughter was divorced, and they were trying to figure out some things with that. And um, the issue of co-parenting is one that, of course, divorce being as common as it is, many people are dealing with. And as I mentioned to her, it's very easy. Of course, no one's going to tell you that, oh, I want to put my kids in between, and I want to hurt my kids, and I want to, what I want is more important than what my kids want, and they aren't the priority. So everyone is going to say that, but not everyone is going to live that or realize the ways that they might be affecting their kids. Or sometimes we make excuses for why we might do certain things. And so, as human beings, we're very good at this, of thinking our situation is unique. So, oh no, cheating is horrible. No one should ever cheat, but you don't really know. My situation is different, with my husband or my wife, and this and that and whatever. I have no way out of the relationship, and blah, blah, blah. And so it's okay. Or lying is not good, but, but this situation, I need to lie. So, we're very good at coming up with reasons why our situation is unique. And so that is why the rules don't apply to me or in this situation. So I have my kids. Yes, we're in a divorce, but you don't know how bad their dad is or how bad their mom is. I have to fight dirty, or I have to do some of these things that I know is not right. But that's just because my situation is so unique. And so there's many reasons why most of us are better at giving advice than taking our own advice or living that advice. One is, of course, things are easier said than done. It's very easy to tell someone, hey, just stop drinking or stop smoking or exercise more or do this or do that or do this in your relationship. So one is that it's very easy to say things, and also from the outside to just see the simple part of it. We just see the actions rather than the emotions and the other challenges. But another reason is that we often don't think the advice applies to us. So we somehow find a way out. So as parents, when you're going through divorce, keep in mind that it's always going to be intense. Very often things get ugly. Very often things are challenging. Very often you might wonder if the other parent is talking bad about you or putting the kids in between you and them. And so it's very easy to try to get to that space of, well, it's okay for me to do it because this, or we'll find ways of tricking ourselves. Actually, it's going to help my kids because I'm going to show them that it's not okay for someone to be the way their mom or their dad is being. So I'm actually teaching them a lesson. And yes, if your ex is disrespecting you, showing that that's not okay, I think makes sense between you and them. But getting the kids involved is not necessary. And so, making your child the priority or children the priority is very challenging because very often people, when they get divorced, usually there are not such pleasant feelings between them and their ex. Some people have more of an amicable separation and divorce, but oftentimes that's not the case. And so it can be very hard to not let those emotions about your ex bleed into the parenting that you're doing and the co-parenting that you're doing with them, that you become one against each other, but even in competition with one another. So something I also see parents doing at times is trying to make their house be more of the fun house. You know what, my kid actually, oh, the kids love coming to my place. They hate going to their dad's place or to their mom's place. They have so much more fun here. Now, of course, if they're happier there for good reasons, that's good. But what I've also seen is at times parents compete in different ways, maybe by being the easy parent. So at their home, there is no rules. The kids can stay up late. They can play video games as much as they want. They can eat junk food whenever they want because they want to be that fun parent, that likable parent. Because one of the things that parents can feel in a divorce is this fear of losing their children. It's very scary to go through a divorce. It's a big change. Very often you're with someone who you think you're going to live the rest of your life with and you started now a family with, and then things seem like they're falling apart. So there can be this fear that what if I'm also losing my kids? And so parents can become desperate or out of this fear might act in ways that might not be in their kids' best interest, but in order to keep their kids attached to them. So let me make my house the fun house. Let me make sure they know how bad their father is or their mother is. So they know I'm the one they should prefer. And even we can trick ourselves, and it's the truth. I'm not telling them anything that didn't happen. I'm not telling them any exaggerations. Shouldn't they know the truth of what's happened? So let me just tell them. And so we go on a campaign, and sometimes even family members get involved where, the sisters and the brothers and the uncles and everyone else is coming in and also letting them know, yes, you never knew this, but your mom did this or your dad did this. And so I hear these stories all the time where kids will come in or people will reflect on when they were kids, and they'll say how the whole family was on this crusade and campaigning to make sure that their parent won in this war between the two people, and also their parent won as in becoming the preferred person. And so it's understandable to have this fear of losing your life in a lot of ways, and you've lost your partner, and now the fear of losing your kids. But always remember that their well being is what you are required to do or responsible to do, is to make sure what's best for them. Even if, and this usually isn't the case, even if it meant that they're less close to you and closer to their other parent, if it meant their overall well being would be insured or would be helped, that's what you should be doing. And so being a parent is a thankless job, is a selfless job. You bring into the world something that then you are responsible to take care of and really owes nothing to you. And so here's another form where this shows itself is that maybe, of course, you love to have your kids, you want to be close to them. One, because you love them and you want to be close to them, but two, because of how it makes you feel. Of course, if you feel like you're a mom or a dad and your kids don't want to see you, that doesn't feel very good. But that can't be the reason why you do certain things to keep them close to you or to try to keep them distant from their other parent. It can't be the driving force. It makes sense. You have that feeling, but we can't let that feeling make the decision of how we act. Okay, I'm afraid my kids will go away, so let me talk bad about their mom or their dad. I'm afraid my kids will go away, so let me create some kind of conflict that will force them to be further away from their other parent. So, as co parents, we have to try our best to put those feelings away. And this is where emotional intelligence can be so important, yet again, that it's not that we ignore our feelings or it's not that we deny our feelings. And it's also not that we just act purely on the feelings. We are aware of them and then we make the best decision with that information. Okay, I have this fear of my kids choosing their dad over me. And actually, that can help me be aware of when I might say certain things, do certain things, or feel threatened. Oh, they had such a good time with their dad this weekend. Am I going to feel threatened and now go over the top? And even though my son has homework, tell him he doesn't have to do it to make sure he has a good time here. Okay, I feel that fear is coming in. I have to do what's best for my son. So, you know what? Even though it won't be as much fun, I know he needs to get this done. So let me support him in getting his homework done because I know that's going to be better for him. I'm not in competition with his dad. I'm in competition with myself to be the best mom I can be for my kids. And so that should always be our mindset. You're not competing with the co parent, you're in a way competing with yourself to be the best parent you can be. And that does involve very often communicating and coordinating with that other parent because that's going to be important for them. But as far as what you're doing, you're supposed to be the best you can be for them, and that's it. And, the fear that many parents have of losing their kids because, let's say, the other parent is bad mouthing them. I can't tell you the number of times I've worked with someone as an adult who says they realized as they got older that, for example, their mom never badmouthed their dad and their dad always did, or vice versa. And as a kid, they believed it to an extent. But now that they've gone older, they recognize, wow, my mom or my dad was so good for not doing that to us. She had all these opportunities to say things, but wouldn't say anything bad about our father or our mother. And that's something they appreciate. And they usually come back to that parent or realize the good there. Bad mouthing anyone is not really a good way to get close to someone, but especially your kid's parent, who's 50% of their genes, or even if it's not the case, but a big part of who they are. That's very important to keep in mind that by hurting them in this way, you're doing it in a very selfish way. And we have to be aware of what we're doing. We can't lie to ourselves and say, no, I'm doing it for the kids. I want them to be happy. I know I'm better for them. So I'm making sure they realize how bad that other parent is so they get close to me. We're doing it for ourselves. We want to feel good. We want to feel like our kids are picking us. We want people to see that, oh, see, they're with their dad or they're with their mom. That shows that they're the good one and the other one is the bad one. And so when we create a war between ourselves and our ex, we have to be aware that we put our kids in between that battle. So it's like you're having a war and you're saying, no, I just want to shoot at my ex, but your kids are in between. And so they're going to get lots of collateral damage from that. They're going to get hurt and probably hurt the most because they're the most fragile, they're the most vulnerable, and you're really playing with and fighting over what really gives them structure, which is their parents, which gives them some kind of good feeling. So this goes back in some ways to what I talked about at the beginning of the show about having intentions and being aware of values, is that if you just let the divorce and things happen and see how things unravel, you might end up in a place you really don't want to be and realize, wow, I'm in a war with their father, with their mother, or I've been bad mouthing and got used to bad mouthing my ex in front of them. But if you think about it beforehand, the things that matter to you, making sure the kids are a priority, and having that conversation with your ex. Look, we have our differences, we have our issues. I know we don't even actually like each other anymore, let alone love each other. But we are responsible to these kids. They deserve us to be the best co-parents we can be for them, not for each other. And sometimes you can feel that way. Oh, don't want to go pick up the kid because it's doing their father or their mother a favor, and I don't want to do anything for them. Making sure that your intention is on them as much as possible, putting those ill feelings for each other aside and realizing we have a responsibility to these kids. And if we don't plan for it, if we don't be proactive about it, very likely you can end up in some bad places. We're very good at fooling ourselves that certain things are okay. And then our kids are going to pay the ultimate price. So again, as a co-parent, what you want, what you feel, of course it does matter and you have to deal with it, but it should not determine the way you act towards your kids or the ways that you might use them in this battle that you might be creating between yourself and your ex. All right, we've reached another commercial break. Studio number 310-441-0555. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Let's go to another caller. Radio Hamra, you're on the air.
Hello?
Yes, hi. Thanks for calling.
Thank you. I have a general question.
Okay.
I personally worry a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know how not to worry. Just different things, different outcomes of things. I always imagine the worst-case scenario outcome for a lot of things I do. So that's been pretty much all my life.
Yeah. And because it's pretty much been all your life, there's a good chance it'll probably be pretty much the rest of your life too. Doesn't mean we can't try to make it more manageable or deal with it better, but it's not something that's just going to disappear. And at some level, it's part of being human is that we think about things, we worry about things, and there's different words that we sometimes use interchangeably, like worry, anxiety, fear, even though they're different things. But when most people experience, and it's kind of funny, it's like if you think of all the things you've worried about happening, probably fewer than, a fraction of a percent of them actually happen, or probably way, way less. Almost none of them happen. Yet we keep doing it. So it can seem in a way illogical that we keep worrying about things that don't end up happening. But we can try to understand our worry also as a protective thing, because yes, none of those things happen, but if we think of when we survive, we have to, it's better to be wrong, have a false positive, meaning we think something is there when it's not, than to miss something. So making it more extreme, if you're in the savannah and there's a lion that you might be seeing, you want to make sure you see it and you don't miss it. It's better to think you saw the lion and be wrong than to not see the lion when it's there. So we tend to worry or be more anxious about things than is actually the reality, but part of it we can understand that it can be protective or make some kind of sense. And so as an overall mindset, I think it could be good not to just, the way I feel like, and when we talked for 5 seconds before we got on the air, it's almost like you're mad at yourself for worrying so much. And it could be helpful to change that mindset, to have some compassion for yourself for worrying so much, rather than beating yourself up or making yourself feel worse. In some way, even embracing the worry than pushing it away. Does that make sense?
It does in a way, but basically I tend to worry for things that have a very small percentage of happening.
Yeah.
I basically, for example, financially, I think I'm well set, but I still, when I see a homeless person, I see, that could be me 10 years, 20 years down the road. And obviously that would not, very likely that's not going to happen, but that's kind of, I identify with that person, with that situation.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of that I don't mind, not that creating a lot of anxiety for yourself, but when we see others who are in a worse circumstance than we are in, having compassion for them can be good, and realizing that could be us. Some people think, I can never be that person because I'm somehow better than them, or I'll never let myself get to that point. But usually it's more about circumstances and who we are when we look at a lot of these things. But some people have, it's like any quality that we have, more tendency to worry than others. Some people worry about a lot of things, and if you tell someone who has anxiety, who has OCD, oh, it's a 1 in a million chance. And in general, humans, we don't do very well with those kinds of probabilities. Like 1 in 1,000 and 1 in a million almost feels the same to us. We don't really get the difference in what really, the way we really should. But when you tell someone it's possible who has anxiety or has, especially like something like OCD, they can't lose that feeling of, well, it's still possible. So if you say, oh, you know what, you're about to go on this plane, one out of every, whatever crashes, or you're about to take this medication, the side effects affects 1 out of every 1 million people. For someone with anxiety, that possibility is hard for them to let go of because it's possible. And the thing is with life, there's almost always bad things that are possible. And so you, for example, might be someone who has a hard time dealing with things because those things can pop into your head. I mean, I don't want to add things to your list of things you worry about, but yeah, you're driving, you can have a car accident, something can happen. Health-wise, so many things can happen to us at any moment. Life is very fragile. The way that we just stay alive, there's stuff that can happen. So there's always things that we can worry about.
Right.
Now, sometimes for some people, meditation makes them more aware of these things and they don't like it, but it can be helpful because over time when people meditate and become more mindful, it can create more of a calming feeling. So we're not going to get rid of your worries. You're never going to be someone who never worries anymore unless we tranquilize you and, give you so many drugs that you won't really be able to function or live. But really, you're always going to be someone who worries, but it could become more manageable. Meditation, exercise, those things might help. And the thing is, logically, we can talk about why you shouldn't worry, but these things kind of happen in an automatic way. It's going to be hard for you to turn it off. You can try to talk to yourself, say, you know what, here I am worrying again, and I know usually I worry about things even though I'm okay.
Right.
But in that moment, what most people experience is that it feels so real. It's not I'm just feeling this. Is like, no, this is a real danger. It feels like you're not just over exaggerating or over worrying. It feels like it's a real fear. If someone has a fear of flying and they're on a plane, they really feel like, no, but this plane might go down. They're not aware. The statistics go out the window because that feeling is very real,
Right. So you're suggesting meditation, or being more mindfulness?
It can be helpful. But as I said, I think your hope was that I would have a way of getting rid of your worries. And probably they're not going to go away. Some people with certain medications can help. For some people, for example, who have OCD, to take certain like antidepressants or other things. It's possible. And that's something you can think about if it's really interfering with your life so much. And maybe you could tell me more about that. How much does it interfere with your day-to-day, or do you feel that it affects the decisions you make in your life and holds you back?
It really doesn't hold me back, but I feel it's constantly on the back of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Every decision I want to make, basically, I think of the worst-case scenario. I'm very pessimistic. I can't take, I have a hard time trusting people in business, in work. That's how it's affecting me, basically.
Yeah. So when you say you have a hard time trusting, has it affected you in friendships, romantic relationships?
Not really, no. No, that part I'm okay. It's like if I'm basically for my work, I have to deal with somebody, I always assume the worst first.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, this thing or this deal or this transaction is not going to go through. It's not going to happen. But again, that's how it's affecting me. I don't have OCD or an anxiety, but I just have that constant worrying, what's going to happen to me, 20 years, 30 years down the road. Can I live the same life I'm living right now? How open I am to changes.
Yeah.
That's what concerns me.
Right. And so, even talking some of those through, I don't know if you're going to live the life you live now, but more than likely we know you'll be okay, whatever it is. Even if life changes, you'll be able to change with it. But, I get that in your head it seems very scary, that handling these things. And then so the thing actually is, if you have anxiety, change is scary for you. So it becomes scary to think, well, what if I can't live exactly the way I'm living, or things can't be exactly the way they are? Now, another aspect of this is there could be times where you're worrying, the way you talk about it might have protected you or helped you. So Not to say that, yeah, if you're paranoid, you might be right sometimes that some people are after you and really almost no one is. But it could be that in your work, even sometimes being more cautious has been helpful. I don't know. Do you see that side of your
Yeah,
worrying?
no,
Yeah.
definitely. It has been
Okay.
helpful. I'm, being skeptic. That has helped me, but it's kind of transferring to my general life. I'm just feeling, okay, I can't trust anybody. Nobody gets what they're supposed to do right, etc., etc. I'm kind of having a hard time trusting people as well.
So, like, what kind of people, like people you're very
Like
close to?
when I have to deal with the company
Hmm.
or something, I keep like repeating myself, making sure the other person understands because I feel, they're not understanding me. They don't do their job right. And I think it has to do also with the fact that I can be controlling as well. I feel like I am a controlling person, so I think that worrying also might stem from that as well.
Well, sure. I mean, it's kind of in a way a chicken or the egg because when you are anxious, you want to control things, right? Because if you're worried things aren't going to go a certain way, then
Right.
you're going to try to control them to be that certain way. Because it's if it doesn't go that way, you're scared something really bad happens. So we have to do it this way. And so you can take some steps at times, realizing, getting out of your comfort zone in some ways. So when you feel like things have to be a certain way, try to almost force yourself to do it slightly differently and see that, okay, everything still turned out okay. It's not going to create a night and day difference, but over time it might give you a little bit more calm of losing some of that control and seeing that even when I don't control everything, the sky doesn't fall. Everything is still okay.
Right.
So that's another thing you can try. You have to be ready to face that discomfort. Really, the only way we grow in these kinds of things is we have to face discomfort. There's no, I'm going to give you the magical lecture right now that's going to change your worrying. You're
Right.
going to have to sometimes face the things that you're afraid of or that you worry about and see that you're okay. And this is actually when people overcome fears, when they have phobias. There's no, I'm going to tell you about how spiders are actually really friendly and good and you're going to be okay. You have to actually face the spider and see that you're okay, you survive, and that it's not as scary as you think. And even what you talk about, what if I go through these things and I can't handle it? So it's not just you're afraid of what's going to happen, you're afraid of your feelings to what's going to happen or if you can handle what's going to happen. And really you're going to, when you ask me, I know it's easier said for me to say you're going to be okay, but in your head it seems so big. So a lot of times we're more afraid of the feeling than actually what's going to happen. I'm afraid of going on an elevator because of that panic I'm going to feel rather than just the elevator itself. And so if we can make the feeling less scary too, that can be good. That it's okay. That's where I was saying embracing the worry. Here I am worrying again. Doesn't feel very good, but this is me. So I would hope you can have some love and compassion for yourself as someone who worries. Not that I want you to worry more or think it's good for you to worry, but if that's what you're doing, I don't want you just to judge it in a negative way and make yourself feel bad.
Understood. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Sure.
Appreciate
Good
the
luck.
kind words and good advice.
And yeah, and I'm sure you're going to be okay. And even if you're not, you're going to be okay.
Thank you.
Okay, nice talking to you.
Bye-bye.
Take care. All right, let's go to another. Let me actually a few thoughts on that. We very often, I talked about this last week because of the new year, new you kind of a thing. And very often we want to become someone different because some of the things we deal with are painful, are uncomfortable. And of course, as a psychologist, I believe that people can change and can grow, but I also am aware of the limitations of that. That if you're someone who, for example, is worrying a lot, has a lot of anxiety, you're probably never going to be the coolest, calmest person in the world. As I mentioned to her, unless you take some kind of drugs, whether it's um, prescribed or illicit drugs, yeah, you might get very calm that way, but also you lose other things or have other effects. But you're probably not going to be that person. And we might have a dream of being that way or wish we could be that way, which is understandable, but we have to be realistic and first embrace and understand who we are. So if you're a sensitive person, you're never going to be the person that doesn't care about anything. And that's okay. So it's realizing that's who you are. And then also, as I was touching on with her, seeing where there are actually maybe some good things about being the way you are too. So not just saying it as a negative. Oh, I'm too sensitive. That makes me weak. No, I'm too sensitive. That makes me more aware. It makes me more empathic. It makes me more attuned to other people. That part is good. And I see sometimes how it gets in the way of certain things or hurts me in other ways, but understanding it better and realizing you're not going to completely change, and that's okay. And you can become better at dealing with your shortcomings or your different characteristics that make you who you are, but you're probably never going to become a completely different person. And of course, we want to have that expectation for ourselves and for other people. So if you have a loved one who worries a lot, don't think, well, if I just tell them they shouldn't worry, they should stop, and they're going to be this super calm person. Or I wish they were just more calm. I get it that you wish they were more calm, and maybe there's some small steps they can take, but we have to accept and love and embrace people as they are. Most people are not just going to become completely different people, and really we probably don't want them to if we love them for some reason. It's also sometimes they have some quality that we like, some sides of it, and some sides we don't. Oh, they're so spontaneous and fun. That's great, but that also makes them a little bit unstable or hard to pin down or hard to make plans with. So it has some good and some bad. And so if we look at our own qualities, very often we'll see that same thing and realize that I want to grow, I want to change over time, but I'm not going to become a completely different person, and that's okay. All right, let's go to another commercial break. Studio number 310-441-0555. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Let's go to another caller. Radio Hamra, you're on the air.
Hi. I have a question about my son. He's 25 years old.
Okay.
He went to university for 2 years. He was very smart. He stopped after 2 years. I got divorced when he was 6. I moved from another country to United States. And now he's at home. He doesn't do anything. He just watches TV and video games, Fortnite, and then other games.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a girlfriend. He brings his girlfriend to my house, and then doesn't contribute anything, doesn't pay for anything. But he's very sweet, very nice, and everyone loves him. And then he knows a lot about everything. If you talk about anything in the world, he knows. My question is, what do I do with him? My family say you have to kick him out of your house. I think he might be depressed. He doesn't go to the doctor. I wanted to make an appointment for like brain scans or other things that help, but it seems that he's not interested.
Well, I don't know if he needs a brain scan, but he could be depressed, based on what you're saying. And, let's try to think of what is your intention, because you say, people tell me I should kick him out of the house. So what's your intention?
I just want to help him.
What does that mean, help him?
I want him on his feet.
Yeah.
I want him to study. I know he's very, very smart. I want him to get back to school, and he had 4.0 in school all the years that he was in school. Mm-hmm. And I just want him to be on his feet, like everybody in the family are masters or PhDs, doctors, except him.
Okay.
And then he blames everything on me. He says, "You did this, that's why I'm here. You did this, that's why I'm here. My credit score is low because you did this. So all the blame goes to me."
So he blames you for, like, not going back to school?
Exactly.
Okay.
He says, now pay for me. The school I sent him was private school, $65,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that again. I'm not sure if he goes to school. He stays in school and finishes what he started. But that's why. And I say, okay, just go to community college, finish your 60 units, and then just go to another school, which is not asking for money that much. Like it's like $8,000 on a fee.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, there's a way, and I this word can come off judgmental, but at least the way you are experiencing him as being feeling entitled that he doesn't have to work or do anything, and that it's okay, or if he wants to go to school, you have to pay, and it's your responsibility. Um, but it could also be that he feels powerless, so it's not just that he feels entitled
That's
because
what I think.
yeah. And so we want to be aware of that, and maybe you contribute to that too by taking
Hmm.
care of him the way you do. And so very often parents can have this feeling that, well, as long as I'm taking care of my kid, even when they're no longer a kid and they're an adult, I'm doing a good job as a parent. But maybe you're holding him back by taking care of him, by paying for whatever it is, or by not having certain
Hmm.
um, wants from him. And so, have you talked to him about what he even wants for himself?
Well, he says, oh, okay, I'm trying. And then he starts the course and then he stops.
Okay.
It's been going on for like 3, 4 years now.
And what does he say is the reason?
Um, he just doesn't talk to me that much. Then I ask him if I talk about fashion or weather or this and that, he would answer me. But if I talk about his personal life, he wouldn't answer me. And he says, you're just making me nervous. Don't talk to not talk about these things.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think it makes him uncomfortable to talk about it,
Exactly.
but it doesn't mean, but he's also avoiding it. There's a way you're talking about him, which reminds me of lots of people. There's like this going back and forth from feeling very weak and not good, but then also
Hmm.
going to this other side of being like better than other people, or being like you even described him so smart and so good. And so,
Very much.
yeah, so he might, and then because of that, when it comes to trying something, he doesn't want to fail because it makes him go back to that feeling of being the weak version of himself. And, or even trying, sometimes people, I'll work with people and they want to work, but they don't want to take the low level job. They want to already have a higher level job. So they won't even start
True.
working, right? Because they want to
That's,
have
that's
a job.
exactly.
Yeah. So they want to have like the
Exactly.
cool job, the good job, the job that they quote unquote deserve, rather than realizing, well, this is my first job, so it's going to be lower level, but I want to work towards something. So that is getting in his way, is like this feeling of, unfortunately, he doesn't feel, I think, good about himself deep down. And so he wants to somehow get this validation from the outside. And what he's choosing to do is to do nothing, because at least if he has no job, he can't have a bad job or a low job, or he can't fail a class if he drops out before he even takes the tests. So he might be afraid of failure, and instead of that is kind of living a life that isn't very successful, but at least he's not losing or making these mistakes. So I would be aware of how you even talk to him. Um, and maybe obviously it's a little bit too late, because my guess is there's a lot of him being so smart and how smart and great he is, but that gets in the way of him actually wanting to work hard, or it can make him afraid to even try things because of that. So I don't know if that makes sense, or if that's kind of how he is, but the way you're describing him, it seems like he's choosing to just not do anything. Now you can
Right.
give him some expectations. Not, I'm usually not in the kick him out of the house mentality, but that it's not okay that he just doesn't contribute anything. And even
Right.
if he doesn't like it, you have to be able to tolerate him not liking the conversation, and you can tell him, I get it, it's not comfortable, I know you don't like talking about it, but I think it's important for us still to talk about it. And I don't know if this is the case for you, but for a lot of parents, it's, oh, he's getting upset, it's okay, let's just avoid it. Let's not, I don't want to upset him, because we think as a parent, our job is to make sure our kids are happy or smiling or feeling good. So if I'm making my kid feel bad, that means I'm being bad, so let me stop. But we need him to face it. What he's also doing, he's avoiding what's going on. And my guess is he doesn't feel very good about it. As much as you don't
No,
like
he
it,
doesn't.
he doesn't
He
feel
doesn't.
good about it either. So we don't need to punish him for it or make him feel worse, because he already feels bad, but we do need to help him to face it and not avoid it, because it seems like he's trying to just coast through and not feel what he's feeling and not think about what's going on and finding a reason why, well, yeah, you did this and you did that, so it's not on me. but it's on him, so you can even acknowledge, I'm sure I've made a lot of mistakes and there's so many things I've done that have affected you, but now what do you want to do now? Whatever has happened to you in the past has happened to you, but what are you going to do with it now? And that's going to be up to him, and not in a way you want to blame him for where he's at, but that realizing that he is the one that's going to be responsible for what happens, and you'll support him in the ways that make sense. But it's going to be on him. And really, that's the case. If he's going to be successful, it's not up to you, it's up to him. And he has to take that ownership.
Well, his sister is a doctor. And then I asked her to talk to him, and then she says, Mom, leave him alone. He's smart. He's going to figure it out. And he might just come out with something big. As I see him, and he is too smart. Every problem I have, I call him, and then he just helps me. Even for the recommendation letters that is, she wanted him to just write or just analyze the books for my daughter.
Yeah. You said that your daughter said he might come up with something big?
Better. Good.
Okay.
But
and it's possible, but that's kind of feeding into the same mentality of, oh, it's like I don't need to do anything because I'm going to do some huge thing that's going to change the world, and I'm just like waiting on that idea to come up, and then it's going to come up. And it reminds me again of that feeling of, I don't want to do something small. I only want to do something huge. And, in the meantime, I'm going to do nothing until that huge thing somehow comes up, So I think that's feeding into that of like there's like this way, your daughter's talking about him, and you even talked about him as this like brilliant, genius, and we don't need to get in his way. And we do have to, at the end of the day, it's up to him. But I don't think him doing the way you're describing it, at least doing nothing. Now, maybe he'll say he's doing something. That's not the path towards doing, people do go on different paths. Not everyone has to go to school even. There's lots of different ways we can become successful, but we have to work towards something. It's not just sitting around waiting for the idea to just develop. And, a lot of times people have this idea that the great inventions and all the great things that have happened, it just came into someone's head out of nowhere. But usually they were working towards something or working on those things for a long time. And then the idea might have came in a flash of intuition, but it wasn't because they were doing nothing and magically it appeared in their head. It's that they've been working on this problem for a while or this issue, and that actually helped them to eventually have this moment where they thought of something in the shower or all of a sudden came to their mind. So right. I think in a way your daughter's right. We don't want to push him too much because he has to go on his own path, but I don't want to feed in too much into this mindset of you're this great genius that just has to like sit there and wait for his big idea to show up. And I think there is fears of failure and fear of things, and maybe he is depressed. And brain scan to me is not, I'm not such a fan of that in general, but to talk to someone, and usually the way I present it is not that you need help, but you deserve help, like things are going on. And even you can start with acknowledging how you've, hurt him or his family, the way you guys raised him and all the stuff it seems that went on there. You gave me a very brief description of it. There's probably a lot there. So it could be good for him to talk to someone. And if he ever gives you a moment where he shows he's not happy with his own life, that could be your way of connecting with him. Not of like saying, oh, see, you're not happy, you're bad, you're, not loving your life, but more of a way of saying, I see that you're in pain, and that's why I want you to get help. Not because you're bad, but actually you're suffering, you're in pain. It's not because of you not being good enough, it's actually because you deserve more.
I'm going to try to send him to his doctor, but on the other hand, do I remind him of, paying for Netflix or TV or the games or
you can.
Anything?
You
Should
can.
I do that?
I think that's okay, but coming up not as a form of punishment, like, well, you know what, now you have to do this because you've been bad and you're not doing anything, but just really, I'd like for you to support in some way. What do you think? I'd make it a conversation rather than a punishment or a demand, and seeing what he says, what ideas he has, what does he think, and it might even bring up his feelings. He probably doesn't feel very good about the situation between you and him or what's going on. He might not acknowledge it, he might not bring it up, but I doubt he's feeling good about it. It seems like he does use avoidance as a coping mechanism, so he avoids the things he doesn't feel good about. So if you bring it up, we have to be ready that more than likely he's going to try to resist the conversation, or maybe he'll get mad at you. Like, come on, mom, like, why do you have to bring up this stuff? Or somehow he'll push you away. And I hope you can tolerate his feeling and not end the conversation. You can acknowledge he doesn't like it. You can acknowledge he doesn't understand, but that it's important for you to talk about whatever, it is that you're talking about. So be ready that he's going to push back. He's not going to like this conversation. You might not like the conversation either. It's going to be an uncomfortable one, but you need to have some of those with him. And at the end of the day, keeping in mind, we're talking about what you can do to help him, but you're not going to push him to the finish line. He's going to have to stand up and go by himself, which I know is what you want, but we have to make sure we're not dragging him too much. You can talk to him, you can support him, but there's only so much you can do.
He doesn't even socialize with the cousins. The youngest graduated from Beirut University. He doesn't, I can't say get along, but I think, as you said, he doesn't feel good about himself.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't, even for my party, he didn't show up. Everybody was there. He didn't show up for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, you said this cousin graduated from college?
Graduated.
Yeah, and so and your son didn't graduate from college yet?
No.
Okay, so maybe it brings up some stuff like this. My younger cousin is doing more than me or has done more than me, So
Right.
I think there is a lot of that, but we can't change him or force him to do anything, but we don't want to reinforce or encourage his avoidance that he's doing. It seems like he's just avoiding, oh, I don't like to see them, but he'll make an excuse. He won't tell you that's the reason, but we need him to face what's going on, rather than going, that's why what you said about your daughter, I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's almost he's living in more of his dream world than the reality world. And we need to get him to face the reality a little bit more. Not, it's not going to be up to you, but getting him to see that this is, the real stuff is he has to do the work that's not so pretty and feels good and shining and being a star. It's like, kind of annoying and difficult and stuff, but that's how it is. So we're going to have to help him with that to not avoid, but it's going to be a challenge. Just, there's only, again, at the end of the day, so much you can do. You can't control him or get him to be a certain way, but you want to be aware of what you're doing and how it's affecting him. And by just taking care of him and being on autopilot is not going to, it seems like your resentment is building too, and that's not good. It's going to affect how you feel and also how you interact with him, but it's not helping him either. So we don't want to contribute to this kind of autopilot, just anything goes kind of a way. We need to get him to face a little bit of what's going on.
So just confront to contribute or ask to check with the doctor and also talk about his last these 13.
Yeah, I mean, the doctor, they'll be aware. I mean, telling him he should go, if it's part of a different kind of conversation, all of them think of these as conversations, not you're going to tell him to do this,
Right,
even when it comes to supporting, you can say, this is really something important for me, whatever it is, but they're conversations. They're not demands. Like you said, if we want him to be on his own feet, he's going to have to get himself there too and take those steps. So I would have those conversations with him, but be aware that it seems like he's trying to avoid, and we don't want to badger him and make him feel bad, but we also don't want to contribute to his avoidance.
Well, thank you so much.
Sure. Nice talking to you.
I
Good luck.
ask him to call you himself if I can.
Sure. I would always rather talk to the person. Yeah. I mean, that's always going to be better. So if he's open to that, have him call in.
Sure. Thank you so
Sure.
much. Have a wonderful day.
Nice talking to you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. Going into our last commercial break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. So I wanted to end the show talking about in a way related to the first topic about setting goals, living the life you want to live, but it's also a knowing yourself. And so, the not the last caller, the one before that, talking about how she felt she worried too much and in a way wanted to stop that. And part of what I told her was about how we often can't change ourselves, or especially can't change ourselves completely, but we can learn to love and embrace who we are. So when we talk about self discovery, self awareness, knowing ourselves better, they all sound like good things. Most people would say that they are, but the first step in that is wanting to know. So we have to want to reflect inward. But really, in order to do that, we have to have the mindset of being able to accept and love whatever we see. Because that's one of the reasons why we don't want to examine ourselves more closely, see who we are, find out who we are. Just like many people will avoid getting a blood test or getting an x-ray or MRI, not because they logically think it's bad to get the test. They know it's good for them, or that they should know that, okay, if something is wrong, we'll start dealing with it now rather than waiting till the problem becomes worse. Or I'll get to find out nothing's wrong and I'll have that peace of mind. But we're afraid of what we might see. We're afraid of what we might have to face if we go and search and find the truth. And so people have that same experience with themselves. We're afraid of the feelings that might come up if we, for example, meditate or if we go to therapy. And one of the things about meditation, a lot of times we have this idea that, well, when you meditate, it's just this peaceful, calm, good feeling. And you might get some of that, but also when you meditate and turn inward and focus more on your feelings, you also are going to face some negative feelings. You might get in touch with some anger, some rage, some really deep pain, raw wounds that you haven't really acknowledged or been aware of. So it's not just that you experience these pleasant, good feelings. You also face some things that don't feel so good. And that's what can keep people at times from doing it. So very often when people talk about meditation, they say, oh, I tried it, but it was too boring. And in a way, of course, yes, it's not this fast-paced, exciting thing. But one of the reasons why it can feel boring is the anxiety. And anxiety is often the word we really mean when we say bored. That comes up with getting in touch with what's there, getting in touch with those feelings that might be uncomfortable. So if we want to go on the journey of self-discovery, we have to have the mindset that whatever I find is going to be okay. Or else we won't even start, or we won't really look so hard. If I tell you I want you to go into this cave and discover everything in there and give me a very solid map of this dark cave and what's going on in there, if you're afraid there's bats and monsters and different things that can hurt you, you're not going to look very hard, or you might not even look at all. Or you might take a few steps in and look back. And you definitely won't do a very thorough uncovering of everything you can find, leaving no stone unturned. You'll be afraid to see what's there because those things are scary. But if we can recognize that the things that we might find scary are actually okay and we can handle them, or another way of looking at that, that everyone, whereas human beings, we have imperfections, we have good, bad, and ugly, and that's okay, that can make it less scary. That if I find an insecurity when I look within myself, if I find some negative feelings towards people in my life that I think are very good, some anger towards family members that I don't want to acknowledge, and that's okay because that's part of being human. If I can have that mindset, then I can look a lot more clearly and thoroughly than if I'm afraid of what I see. So accepting ourselves as human and recognizing what that means is very important. That as human beings, we are flawed individuals. That as human beings with human relationships, even in the best of relationships, there will be some negative feelings, or there could be some negative emotions, resentments, things from things that have happened or things that have built up over the course of the relationship. And that's okay. It doesn't mean we are bad. It doesn't even mean that other person is bad or that our relationship is bad. It just means that this is part of being in a relationship, is that there can be feelings there that aren't just pleasant. When we interact with each other closely, we have to know and understand and expect that there's going to be some things that come up that we don't like. It's impossible to get close to someone, to get very close and emotionally intimate with someone and have no bad feelings, no bad situations, no arguments, disagreements, and resentments build up in any way. And we have to accept that. So if we can accept what it means to be human and that I'm going to see flaws when I look at myself more closely. If you look at a mirror that's 500 feet away, you won't barely see yourself and you won't see any flaws. If you get a magnifying glass and look at your face up close, you'll start to see some imperfections and things, but that's part of being human. And if you can accept that that's part of being human, that I'll see these things and that makes me still lovable and doesn't make me something not okay, then you'll be less afraid to look at yourself up close. And so we can have this mindset that what I find will be okay. And even what I find, when I see it, I can understand it better. I can have compassion for my insecurities that I find. I can have compassion for some of the feelings I wish I didn't have. It's very common, for example, for people not to want to see that they have a jealous feeling towards someone because they think that makes them weak. And why should I feel jealous about anyone or anything or feel envious towards someone? So we don't want to see that feeling. But really, we have to acknowledge that it's going to be there. Everyone has these feelings. The most confident person you know has some insecurities too. The person who seems to believe in themselves the most has had moments where they doubt themselves. The person who seems to have such great willpower has times where they want to give up or has given up completely. So this thought that we're supposed to be something that is not human gets in our way of actually knowing ourselves better and also of knowing each other better, because we don't want to see what's there and we don't let each other see us as closely. So I hope in this year, I've talked a bit about before the New Year's and even when the year started, about embracing who you are. That when people say new year, new you, part of what makes me not like that is that it's saying the me I am now is not good enough. The me I am now is not lovable, or I hate it, or it's not acceptable. I have to become a totally new version of myself, when that's not the case. The you that you are is lovable and is good. And actually, the more you understand that you, the better you can even express your full potential, express all the gifts that you have. Because the more you understand about yourself, yes, I'm bringing up some of these negative things that you have to be willing to face and embrace, but you also will understand yourself better in the positive things that you have, the strengths you have, the gifts and talents that maybe you're afraid to express or afraid to get in touch with or express, afraid to show to the world. You'll become more aware and in touch with those as well. So if we can embrace what we find, we're not as afraid to find anything. And the only way we can really try to understand ourselves is if we go in with that mindset that whatever I find is going to be okay. I'm a human being who's going to have flaws. I'm going to have weaknesses. I'm going to have mistakes that I've made, and I don't want to avoid those. I want to face those to understand myself better so that I can grow. The only way we can help ourselves grow is by first seeing what we are. Going back to that analogy of getting an x-ray, you have to get the x-ray to see what's going on, and then you can help heal what's there. But we can't heal what we don't feel. We can't improve until we actually see what the situation is. And the first step is wanting to look within. But the mindset we have to have when we want to look within is that whatever I find, it's going to be okay. I can love myself. I can be lovable no matter what is there. Just like if you're with a child, you're going to try to understand them better. Whatever they are, you're going to love. There's nothing they can do or be that'll make them unlovable. And hopefully we can have that same mindset and approach with ourselves as well. All right, that brings us to the end of today's show. The book of the week again is How We Work by Leah Weiss. How We Work, Live Your Purpose, Reclaim Your Sanity, and Embrace the Daily Grind. Look forward to sharing that with you on Monday's show, and already gotten a bunch of recommendations for this year, which I appreciate. So thank you to everyone who sent me some book recommendations. But also, if you haven't and you have one in mind, please send it to me on my Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, because I'm always looking for new books to read to add to the books of the week for each show. All right, that brings us to the end of today's show. Thank you to all the callers and the listeners and to Ghazala here in the studio. You've been listening to In Session with Dr. Farid Holakouee. Have a wonderful day.